What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gage, and today I am excited to share with you my Beetrooper deck profile. But before I do, I have some exciting news. I am now officially sponsored by TCG Player, the world's largest online marketplace for buying and selling trading cards. This is a huge milestone for the channel, and I really appreciate all the people who are subscribed and continue to watch my content. We recently hit 250 subscribers. So to celebrate, I hired a South Korean artist by the name of dobeebdesigns to create the new channel icon for the channel. So I hope you guys appreciate that. If you're interested in checking her out yourself, I will actually leave a description to her shop in the description below. Additionally, if you are interested in buying cards through TCG Player in the future, please use my affiliate link down below. It will help support this small but humble channel. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to hop right into the profile. So guys, the Beetroopers are a TCG exclusive archetype that debuted in Dawn of Majesty, and they are really good insect support. Insects have always had kind of a skeleton of a deck. There wasn't really a really powerful option. But now the Beetroopers help to add some consistency and some much-needed interruptions, and with the additions of the Battle Wasps and other generic insect support, help to make this a formidable foe. Now, it's not meta by any means, but it is a solid rogue deck, and we're going to start off with 3 copies of Scout Buggy. Pretty decent. When it's normal or special summoned, you could special summon a Beetrooper from the hand, deck, or graveyard. It is a hard once per turn, but it's essentially never dead because even if one's in the grave, you could just go ahead and special summon it back with the other. And the Link monster actually helps you to shuffle these back into the deck so that you can continue to use and abuse them later on following turns 2, 3, and 4. So Beetrooper Scout Buggy is a necessary 3 of a really strong starter, and that's why I recommend the 3 copies. I'm also playing 3 copies of Beetrooper Scale Bomber, a really good Beetrooper extender as well. This one on when an insect is normal or special summoned to your field, you could special summon this card from the hand. And then when a monster your opponent controls activates its effect, you can quick effect tribute an insect, including itself, to destroy it. So it has a Ghost Ogre-like effect, which is really awesome because you could either special summon this off of its effect, or you could actually special summon this with the Link 4 monster, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So 3 copies is a must in my opinion. And I'm also playing 2 copies of Sting Lancer. So guys, this is a really early build. There is no definitive best Beetrooper deck right now. So we're still playing around with the ratios. 2 has been working for me. 3 gets a little bricky, and you'll see why. During the main phase, you can quick effect target an insect monster from your grave and one monster in your opponent's graveyard. Special summon this card from the hand, and if you do, place the monsters on the bottom of the decks. So you are not only providing interruption to your opponent, and interrupting your opponent's graveyard in this particular meta is very strong, but you're also recycling resources from your own graveyard. So this is awesome. Additionally, when this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Beetrooper Speller Trap from the deck to your hand. That is so powerful. You're able to add the Beetrooper Counter Trap, which is a monster negate that can actually set itself back onto the field. And it can also search the Beetrooper formation, which is a monster reborn for Beetroopers. So Sting Lancer has been good at 2 copies and working well for me. I also play 3 copies of Battle Wasp Sting the Poison, the best normal summon in the deck by far, because when it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Battle Wasp monster from the deck to your hand. So this allows you to search for more extenders, but this is also one of the only normal summons, at least that I'm aware of, that has built-in negation, because you can quick effect tribute one other insect monster, then target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. So that is pretty nutty. If you manage to keep this around, it actually is an interruption. So that's why 3 Sting the Poison is a must. And now you can also use that Sting the Poison to special summon Battle Wasp Pin the Bullseye. So adorable, and it's a really good extender as well. If you control an insect, you could special summon this card from the hand, easy peasy, but it also has the ability where During the main phase, you can just straight up inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each pin the bullseye on the field. I think it's funny that this deck does have a little bit of built-in burn damage, which is pretty relevant in an era where we can go into time. So yeah, pin the bullseye, a great extender, and can burn your opponent. And then I'm also playing 3 copies of Battle Wasp Twin Bow the Attacker. Now, this is kind of a necessary evil for the deck. It is a good extender because during the main phase, you could special summon it from the hand, but it does lock you out of special summoning monsters from the extra deck that aren't insects. So essentially, this locks you into insects from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. We're playing a myriad of different insect monsters in the extra deck anyway, so it isn't too much of an issue. In fact, the archetype doesn't really lock you into insects all that much. This is the only one that actually locks you out for in the entire turn, and that's why it's less than ideal if you need to special summon it, but it's not the end of the world. So 3 Twin Bow the Attacker has been decent in my build. And then I do play 1 Arbalest the Rapid Fire. When it's normal summoned, you could target a level 3 or lower insect in the grave and special summon it. So you could use the Sting the Poison to search the pin the bullseye, and then link those off, go into your Armor Horn, and the Armor Horn Link monster lets you normal summon a second time. So you could normal summon this, special summon the pin the bullseye from the grave, and continue linking off. So I do actually like running the 1 copy because it is searchable off the Sting the Poison. And that's it for the Battle Wasps. Now I'm playing 3 copies of Resonance Insect. Guys, this is easily the most broken card in the deck. It is the Ben 10, if you will. If it's sent from the field to grave, you can add a level 5 or higher insect monster from the deck to your hand. So the implications with that are vast. You are not only able to search extenders like Doomdozer, but you are also able to search hand traps like Contact C, or even kaijus like Godarla the Mystery Dust Kaiju, or the Humongous the Sticky String Kaiju. So Resonance Insect is very powerful, and when it's banished, you can send an insect monster from the deck to your hand. So we're able to send another card, Goki Pole, which allows you to add a level 4 monster. And this is not a once per turn in any way. So you could just continue to use and abuse this card. It is very powerful. There's 1 Link monster that lets you cheat this out from the deck. So you are going to be able to combo off pretty hard if you do have access to the Resonance Insect. So 3 copies is a must in my opinion. And like I mentioned, I'm playing that 1 Goki Pole. If it's sent to the grave, I could add a level 4 insect monster from the deck to your hand. So you could either use that to add an extender like the Aztekipede that I'll talk about in a moment, or you could use it to search for a hand trap like Retaliating C, which I will also talk about in just a moment. So this is the only insect that really has like utility in the graveyard. If not, I'd be playing others. It is a hard once per turn, so that's all. The only reason why I want to play 1 copy, you don't want to necessarily brick on it. So 1 Goki Pole has been good. And then for some additional insect extenders, we're playing the 1 Aztekipede and the 1 Doomdozer. The Aztekipede lets you special summon itself by banishing an insect from the grave, and Doomdozer lets you special summon itself by banishing 2 insects from the grave. So they're just really good extenders that help you trigger your Resonance Insect and allow you to keep comboing off. Honestly, I may end up bumping the Aztekipede up to 2 copies just because it's that good of an extender. For more generic extenders, we have 2 copies of Primitive Butterfly. Honestly, this one is kind of subpar. If you control no monsters, you could special summon it, so it's really good if you do draw into it going first. However, it is pretty dead if you do draw into the second one, so that's why I may consider swapping this one for the 2nd copy of Aztekipede. So it does become a brick. It's okay. It's a level 5, so you can't normal summon it, and that's honestly why I just want to play the 1 copy. And now for some other insect monsters, we are playing Humongous the Sticky String Kaiju in the main, as well as Contact C. They are both searchable, so that's why I only play 1 copy of each. And obviously, I can interchange depending on the deck that I am playing against by playing other cards in the side deck. So these are really good to search off of your Resonance Insect, and that's why I'm playing 1 copy of each, but feel free to play around with the ratios as you see fit. And for the last hand trap-esque card, I'm playing 3 copies of Retaliating C. Guys, this card is kind of bonkers. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell that includes the effect that special summons, so we're talking Quick Launch, we're talking Monster Reborn, Prank Kids Pandemonium, Invocation, etc. This will special summon, and then any card sent from the field to the grave is banished instead, so it becomes a Macrocosmos. So that is pretty nutty. Additionally, if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add an Earth Insect type monster with 1500 attack or less from the deck to your hand. And you guessed it, that searches the Resonance Insect. So Retaliating Sea is actually really good for the deck, and that's why I play 3 copies. But of course, you can feel free to play around with the different ratios. And of course, it might not be good in every matchup. However, you can always just swap them out with other cards in the side deck. And that's it for the monsters. So as you can see, we are playing a lot of monster spam. I believe that is the best way to go for this type of deck. And now for the spells, I'm playing triple copies of Multiplication of Ants. This card is pretty bonkers. Essentially, you tribute an insect to special summon 2 insect tokens to your field, so it allows you to gain more advantage. If you normal summon the Resonance Insect and then use this to tribute it off and get 2 tokens, now you get the ability to search with Resonance Insect, and it just helps you to get so much advantage. It's also not a hard once per turn, so if you do draw into multiples, it's not the end of the world, because then you can go ahead and combo even further. So it makes some of your weaker hands way stronger and some of your broken hands even more powerful, and that's why I like the multiplication. I have seen people play Ready Fusion. It is a decent option. However, I can't afford that at the moment. I believe the Fusion is way too expensive and not necessary. So 3 Multiplication of Ants. This is essentially a replacement for the Ready Fusion, and in some instances is even better. And I'm also playing 2 copies of Beetrooper Formation. I may actually end up swapping the Beetrooper Formation for maybe another Insect Extender, just because this is searchable and it only special summons Beetroopers from the grave, so that is pretty decent. But it is a field spell, so it does stick around, and if a face-up insect is destroyed by battle or card effect, you could special summon a Beetrooper token. So it does help you to replace the monster that is lost. So that's why it is a good card, but honestly, you only really need 1 since it's searchable. I'm also playing Monster Reborn. The extension is the name of the game, and Monster Reborn really helps for you to continue to push through. Of course, you are going to be interrupted in your plays at some point with the existence of so many hand traps in the format, so Monster Reborn really helps out with being able to continue comboing off. And then, of course, the one called by the grave. We are, of course, in a hand trap format. We play a lot of normal summons. We play a lot of cards that can be choked out by an Ash Blossom or Effect Veiler, so having at least 1 called by is decent for protection. And then I am main decking 1 copy of Rivalry of Warlords and 1 Beetrooper Fly and Sting. Beetrooper Fly and Sting is the counter trap I mentioned earlier. That is a monster negate that can also reset itself to your field, so that's pretty good. And then Rivalry of Warlords is a floodgate that can be a blowout depending on the type of deck that you are playing against. So I found that running 1 copy isn't the worst thing in the world, because even if you're not able to full combo, sometimes just ending on the Rivalry is all that you need, and we can essentially main deck this because we are rewarded for playing just insects. So I think that these are 2 pretty good traps. And of course, you can, depending on the matchup, just swap out the Rivalry with something a little bit more relevant. All right, so that's it for the main deck. It is 40 cards. Like I mentioned, it's still an early build, so I may end up swapping around some of the ratios. But for now, that's what I'm comfortable with. Now for the extra deck. I am playing 2 copies of Giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas. Essentially, it's a 3000 attack boss monster that cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Additionally, it has the ability where you could tribute an insect monster to special summon a Beetrooper from the deck, or give this card 2000 attack until the end of the turn. So it can essentially become 5,000 to help you with those OTKs. But going first, you're really just going to use the ability to special summon the Beetrooper from the deck to either get yourself a Scale Bomber if you want the Ghost Ogre effect, or you could use it to search the to special summon the Sting Lancer, which will then search you the counter trap. So this is a really good boss monster. 2 copies is really all you need, and sometimes you can actually end your opening turn with 2 copies on the field. 3 has never really come up, but you are free to add a 3rd one if necessary. And now for another broken Beetrooper, we're playing triple copies of Beetrooper Armor Horn. This essentially allows you to normal summon a second time, which is really good at helping to continue extending and comboing. But it also has the ability where if it's in the grave, you can banish 3 other insects to special summon this card. So it will trigger Resonance Insect if necessary. So Armor Horn is a necessary 3 of. We're also playing 2 copies of Insector Pico Felina. This is actually a broken card. Even though it is not a Beetrooper, it's still really good insect support. When it's link summoned, you can discard a card, target another insect you control, and then equip an insect from the deck to it as an equip spell. So essentially, this is how you cheat out the Resonance Insect so that you can continue to combo off. And it also has the ability where you can shuffle 3 monsters in your grave and draw a card. So that is pretty bonkers. If you do have a card in your hand that is essentially dead, you could just discard it, shuffle it back into the deck, and then hope to draw it into maybe another hand trap or an extender. So Pico Felina is the MVP for sure. I'm playing 1 Seraphim Papillion. This is really good for just continuing to link climb. It does have a decent effect. When it's link summoned, you can place a counter on this card for each insect used as link material. Usually it'll just be 2, but then it can quick effect remove one of those counters to special summon a level 4 or lower insect from the graveyard in defense position. That is really awesome because if you have something like a Sting the Poison in the grave, you can quick effect bring that out on your opponent's turn, and now you have an additional interruption. So this actually has additional utility as well as just being a big booty. I'm also playing 1 Shinobi Insect. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. Essentially, this is the most generic monster you can go into just because it requires 2 monsters with different names. So sometimes you just need it for link climbing. If your opponent gives you a Nibiru token, you could use that and another extender to go into this so that you can continue playing. And yeah, that's pretty much all it does. It does have an additional effect that doesn't really come up all that often, but I found that 1 copy is useful in those instances in which you just really need a generic link. And of course, the 1 copy of Almirage, sometimes you have to normal summon that Resonance Insect, and putting it in the grave with Almirage is a really good option just to be able to keep you from going and to search you that hand trap if necessary. And then, of course, like I mentioned, we're not locked into insects all the time. So we are still able to play some generic cards like Boral Sword for closing out games and Apollosa for some additional protection. That is why I like having them in the deck just in case. I'm playing 2 copies of number 3 Cicada King, which is a decent option if it does come up where you have 2 level 3s on the field. You can actually... If the battle position of this card is changed, you could special summon an insect from the hand or grave in defense position, and when a monster on the field activates its effect, you could detach a material from this card, target that monster, and negate its effects, then make 1 insect monster on the field, either gain 500 defense or change its battle position, so that's how you can manually change the battle position. So it can be a really good extender depending on the situation, so 2 copies has been good for me. And then, honestly, the last card is a flex spot, Insector Exostag. I really just wanted to be able to throw this in here, but it never really comes up. You can play some of the Battle Wasp Synchros. I have seen some builds that play that. You could also play just more generic stuff like IP Masquerena, the Nightmares, etc. But yeah, this is a flex spot. Honestly, you really don't go into it all that often. I just really wanted to throw it in there. And guys, that's going to be it for the profile. So it's still an early build. I don't quite have a full side deck, but I will show you some of the options that I am considering. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber with some extra Kaijus is really good at helping to break your opponent's board, especially since a lot of decks, they might not necessarily have a way to protect against a board wipe, so that's why Interrupted Kaiju Slumber is good. And of course, you can actually search Godarla as well as the Cumulus with your Resonance Insect, so that is pretty good. And then the 2 other copies of Rivalry. Yeah, I mean, if we're playing against a deck that is playing multiple types of monsters, then this is pretty much a requirement. And then you can also play some going second options like Dark Ruler No More, Ash Blossom, Twin Twisters, and the like. So guys, that's going to be it for the profile itself. I'm going to hop into the test hand portion. Thanks for sticking around. And if you're not watching the test hands, till next time, GG. All right, everyone, welcome to the test hand portion of the video. Thanks for sticking around. The Beetroopers are one of those decks where, honestly, your end board can vary greatly depending on the monsters and the extenders that you have available. So I just figured it would be easier to actually show off some test hands. So I'm going to go ahead, do a few cuts, make sure it's nice and randomized, and then draw for turn. So we drew a Twin Bow, a Sting the Poison, Called by the Grave, Retaliating Sea, and a Beetrooper Scout Buggy. So this is actually a really decent hand. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and special summon a copy of Sting the Poison. So we'll go ahead and add ourselves a Pin the Bullseye, and then we'll special summon it to our field. And then we'll special summon a Twin Bow the Attacker. We can use the Pin and the Twin Bow to then link into an Armor Horn, which will then give us the ability to normal summon a second time. So we'll normal summon that Scout Buggy, which will let us special summon a Scout Buggy from the deck. We will then use both of the Scout Buggies to link into the Pico Felina, and then we'll use the Pico Felina to discard a card. Do we want to discard the Called by the Grave? We'll discard the Retaliating Sea just because it is searchable, and we could shuffle it back with Pico's effect. So we'll resolve the Pico to attach a Resonance Insect to the Armor Horn, and that is what allows us to cheat that out of the deck. Let me just move this over here. And so now we'll use the Pico Felina's effect to shuffle 3 insects from the grave back into the deck. So we'll put 1 Scout Buggy back in because we can always just... we'll leave this in the grave because it can always be special summoned from the graveyard from another Scout Buggy. So we'll leave 1 in the grave, and we'll put back the Retaliating Sea and the Pin the Bullseye. The Pin the Bullseye is a little bit better than Twin Bow because it doesn't lock you into insects for the rest of the turn. So we'll go ahead and shuffle those 3 and draw 1. So that's what I really like about this deck, is that you never really brick, because even the few bricks that we do play, you could just discard it with Pico Felina's effect and then shuffle it back in, so we're always getting back our resources. Give it a good shuffle. Nice cut. And then draw for her effect. So we drew into a Beetrooper formation, which is awesome. Alright, so now we can go ahead and use these to get into a giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas. So the Resonance Insect will trigger now that it's sent from the field to the grave to add us a level 5 or higher. In this case, we're going to go for the Doom Dozer. We'll then use the Doom Dozer to banish the Resonance Insect and the Twin Bow the Attacker, to special summon it. And then the Resonance Insect will trigger, because it was banished, to send a level 4 or lower to the insect to the grave. So we'll send the Goki Pole, which will trigger to add us a level 4 monster to our hand. So we'll go ahead and add... we'll add a Retaliating Sea. Next, we'll use the Invincible Atlas effect to tribute the Doom Dozer, to special summon a copy of Sting Lancer from the deck. Sting Lancer will trigger on summon to then add you the Beetrooper Speller Trap. In this case, we're going to go for the Counter Trap, since we already have the Beetrooper formation in our hand. Alright, let me look at the grave. So, lastly, we can actually use the Beetrooper formation. So it's a field spell, which will allow us to special summon a Beetrooper from the grave. Now keep in mind, you do lose life points equal to the attack, so we do lose 1,000, but that's okay because we are essentially getting extra material for that. And then we can use the Armor Horn in the grave, which allows us to banish 3 monsters to special summon the Armor Horn back to your side of the field. And then what you can do is actually use these 3, these 4, well, these 3, but it's a link 4, to then go ahead and link into your second giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas. So here's what we're looking at for this particular hand. So we have a indestructible, non-targetable monster, 2 of them. We have the Sting the Poison, which allows you to tribute an insect to negate your opponent's monster effect. We have the Beetrooper Fly and Sting, which will be able to act as a monster negate and has the ability to banish a Beetrooper from an insect from the grave to set this card back to your side of the field. The Beetrooper formation, if any of our monsters are destroyed by battle or card effect, we can actually special summon a token to our side of the field, which we can use for tributes and for linking, etc. We'll be able to set the Called by the Grave, which will, of course, provide some disruption to your opponent. And we have the Retaliating Sea, which can potentially be a Macrocosmos. So guys, even though that wasn't the craziest hand, we were still able to make something work with it. So let's go ahead and do one more just to see what else the deck is capable of. Like I mentioned, the combo routes can differ depending on your hand, so I just want to be able to show that off. So let's get a few more good shuffles in there. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. All right, now we'll draw for turn. So we'll draw the Sting the Poison, Arbalest the Rapid Fire, Scale Bomber, Twin Bow the Attacker, and a Humongous. So this is actually pretty decent, so we'll see something a little bit similar to what we saw in the first one. So we will normal summon the Sting the Poison, activate its effect to go ahead and search for a Pin the Bullseye. We'll special summon the Twin Bow just because, and then we'll special summon the Scale Bomber as well. Next, we will link the Pin and Twin Bow to go into, of course, our Armor Horn, which will then let us normal summon again. So this is where the Arbalest is actually pretty clutch, because now that we normal summoned it, we can then special summon, guess it doesn't really matter, we'll special summon the Pin the Bullseye, just because this one's cuter. And then we'll go ahead and use the Arbalest and the Pin to link into a Pico Felina. Pico Felina's effect will trigger, we'll go ahead and discard this Humongous just sitting in our hand to add, to attach the Resonance Insect as a spell to the Armor Horn. And then we'll use Pico Felina's effect to shuffle back the Humongous, Pin, and the Arbalest, because we could use it to special summon the potentially special summon the Twin Bow back from the grave. So we'll give it a good shuffle, 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 shuffle. Again, there's been so many times where I do this and then I draw into a hand trap or another extender that helps to make the end board even better. Alright, so we drew into a Sting Lancer. Pretty nice. So we're going to use the Armor Horn, the Pico Felina, and the Resonance Insect to go into a giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas. And then, of course, because the Resonance Insect was sent to the grave, we'll trigger to add ourselves a level 5 or higher, which will be the Doomdozer most of the time. We will then special the Doomdozer, banishing the Resonance Insect and the Pico Felina, so that we can go ahead and trigger the Resonance Insect to send a Goki Pole to the grave. The Goki Pole will trigger to add us a level 4 insect. In this case, that will be our Retaliating Sea. Next, we will tribute the Doomdozer to go ahead and special summon ourselves the other copy of Sting Lancer that we play, which will go ahead and search us the counter trap. So guys, this is what our board looks like. Again, we have the giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas, indestructible, non-targetable. We have the Sting the Poison, which contribute another insect monster to negate an opponent's effect monster. We have the Scale Bomber, which of course you're going to want to make sure you special in defense because it does have a big booty. But this acts as a Ghost Ogre, so if your opponent activates a monster effect, you could just go ahead and tribute this and destroy. Then you also have the Counter Trap with Fly and Sting, which acts as a monster negate, which you can reset. You have the Sting Lancer in your hand, so you can actually, during either main phase, you can quick effect target an insect in your grave and one monster in your opponent's graveyard shuffle both, put both of those to the bottom of the deck, and then you could go ahead and special summon this card. So essentially it's disrupting your opponent's graveyard and it's returning a resource from your graveyard back into the deck. So that is really good. And then on summon, it also searches a Beetrooper spell or trap. So in this case, you'll probably grab the Beetrooper formation, which will act as a monster reborn for a follow-up on the following turn. And then of course we have the retaliating sea. And if our opponent attempts to special summon with a spell, we're going to hit him with a Macrocosmos. So guys, that's going to be it for the test hands and the combos. Thank you so much for sticking around. This deck is a ton of fun, and I'm really happy that Insects got the support that they need. If you've stuck around this long, you're the MVP. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what techs you are playing. And thank you so much for the support. Until next time, GG.